Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good, presented by Betches Media. So a little before Christmas, I had our next guest on for the first time, and she has an excellent podcast called Little Miss Recap that I think is doing daily shows at this point and covers so many shows that we do not touch on here, even though I am a fan of the shows that she covers. So it's always good to be able to talk about these shows and kind of visit and dip in and potentially inspire you to go pick up a new podcast that does cover these shows more in depth. So, from Little Miss Recap, the one, the only, Amye Archer is back with us. Amye, how are you doing?
Hi, Ryan. I'm well. How are you?
It's been a wild ride in 2025 so far.
Yeah, it's quite the year it's shaping up to be, and it's only February 4th.
I mean, well, in one hand, it's going so slow, and on the other hand, I'm like, oh wow, we knocked out the first month of the year. We only have 11 more of these until 2026.
I know, and I feel like maybe the television networks were sitting on a lot of stuff, and come February, they're just like, we're giving you everything right now.
And by the way, we're doing that with our podcast as well. We were talking about this before we started. Was that, you know, I say I don't really know a lot to do except for podcasts. So I think you see the amount I'm releasing right now is directly related to the craziness I feel of the world, you know? So I'm just
agree, 100%.
I gotta talk more.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's that connection with our audience. I just need it. I need it when I'm feeling upset or anxious. So here I am.
Yeah, I always find it's better to get the thoughts out of your head and vocalize them, even if it's not like, you know, just to vocalize something, because if you sit with it in your head, you know, you're obviously going to tell yourself sometimes the wrong answers or the wrong way to go. And then if you say it out loud, you're like, oh, that makes way more sense, or that is just batshit crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. You could just lay in bed at night and anxiety I don't know the word I'm looking for here. Just ramble on. So I will tell you that what I've started doing is playing Match Factory. And I'm going to tell your entire audience. I'm going to tell your entire audience.
Anyway, is this an ad? Are you doing an ad right now? Is this something?
It's actually, you know what, Ryan? It's a public service announcement. The more you know. Okay. Do not start Match Factory. Do not download it, and do not tell anyone else about it, because it will suck your life away.
Is this like Candy Crush?
Kind of, yes.
Oh boy. Yeah, I can listen. I'm already, I was the one like going, the TikTok ban, I was actually excited for, because
I have time to do
Oh things. Yeah. Like, I mean, listen, I did like this massive Baldwin Lively episode. I was so jacked from that. I got into bed after 1, and then I was up till 3 trying to decompress. And I was literally just sitting there thinking like, what is Lively thinking? I kept thinking about it. And then I was scrolling on TikTok, and all of a sudden it's 3 o'clock. And so it is just, I want TikTok to go away, because it's too powerful. I need to go to sleep.
So I have twin 18-year-old daughters, and they came home the day TikTok was banned, and they were very upset. And by the time they came home,
but it's the first time you talked to your daughters probably in years that night.
I'm like, oh my God, that's what you look like. And one of them was like, oh, but TikTok's back. And the other one said, I deleted it off my phone, and it's not in the App Store anymore. So she was panicking. She was asking me if I had old phones of theirs. Like we were going
by
through
the way, if I'm not mistaken, they are selling old iPhones with TikTok included, because what people did, you guys, if you like, and this shocked me, because when it went down, people were like, screw this, and automatically deleted it. And if you did that, it is still not on the App Store, so you cannot restore the app yet. So it is, but I always think that's so interesting. I have a bunch of friends that did that, and I was like, what was your thinking behind that? Like, you know what? You leave me, I'm going to leave you.
Right. Well, and then she's like, oh, and I got this VPN, and I did this, and I did that. I'm thinking, you can't even figure out how to make ramen. See, and you're figuring this out?
This is what I'm saying. If we could put the energy that we talk about reality shows, or that your daughter talks about trying to get on TikTok, we could actually solve maybe some of the world's problems. As I was in my 4th hour of Baldwin Lively, I was like, what if I put this energy into like something? I mean, just something that would potentially help.
Something productive.
Well, and then Amye, like just so the audience knows, you're covering a bunch of shows on your show. Will you break down everything that you're covering and what you're about to cover? Because I know we got some new shows coming up.
Yeah, so we just finished 90 Day Before the 90, so that's done. The new season is starting in 2 weeks, because Matt Sharp only breaks for the Super Bowl, so he'll be off next week. But
that's 90 Day Fiance, the OG 90 Day Fiance, not before
season
the 90
11,
days.
correct. And then Last Resort, we're covering 90 Day Last Resort. We're also doing a Mad Men rewatch, which has been
you told me this last
fun.
time that, just to remind the audience, if you didn't listen, she is rewatching Mad Men, which is just a classic TV show, which is just so funny to think about that compared to 90 Day Fiance and how jarring that must be.
It just really is. It's a whole different world. It's terrible in a different way, but it's, a good show. And we're also we have a lot of documentaries coming up. We're going to do the Gabby Petito documentary. We're going to do the OJ Simpson. Clear? We're going to do Going Clear on our Patreon. I'm very excited. I've never seen it. And I have a toxic crush on Tom Cruise that I need to be broken of.
I was thinking about Tom Cruise last night. I was talking to my girlfriend about this and I said,
I think about him a lot.
Well, no, I mean, listen, I was talking about it like Blake Lively, and I'm thinking about like she has this hair care product and she has this alcohol. And like, I think nowadays, celebrities, it's not enough just to be an actor anymore. You've got to be multi-hyphenate. You've got to try to get billionaire status. When I was like, listen, Tom Cruise might be a weirdo, but God bless the man. He just wants to make movies. You don't see him out there peddling a tequila.
He doesn't have a podcast.
Yes. He's not like, my hair is shiny smooth with Cruise Correct. Like there's nothing like that with him.
Yeah. We're also doing Love is Blind. Do you cover that? Okay. Are you going to be covering that?
No, you know what? I watch it. Love is Blind season. The new season premieres on February 14th, Valentine's Day, which is great. I think they drop like a handful of episodes at once, and you guys are covering it, right?
They'll drop 6, which I've already seen, and I can't give anything away, but it's a good season. So 6 in the first drop.
I bet I have those screeners in my Netflix account.
Why'd you
tell me that?
And then they do 3, and then I think they do 6, 3, 2, 1, something like that.
Yeah. So those first 6 episodes are always the best for me of the bunch.
They really are. And you know what I do? I'm sick and twisted. I watch them all first while I'm doing other things. I just have it on. And then when I take notes on them, I start at the end first. So I start in episode 6. I see where we got. And then I go back and trace the journey of each couple.
It's like Memento. It's amazing.
Yes.
I like that. That's a good way to go about it. So you'll be covering that on your show. I also, you said Temptation Island is coming back.
There is nothing on earth can stop me from covering Temptation Island. I love it so much. Yes.
That's so, it's like there's so many shows out there. So Temptation Island has always been one of those shows of like, I don't need to watch it. Like I got enough on my plate. You love it. Why do you love Temptation Island?
Yeah, because you have Mark Wahlberg, not Mark Wahlberg.
Not the actor.
The other Mark Wahlberg. Not lesser. Just different.
No. Maybe even better than the actor
even
Mark
better.
Wahlberg,
And he is pretty much like an armchair therapist. He really is. And he gets so deep with these couples and so intense and just, it's really good. It's a really good show. And people just act like fools in the house. And I'm always here for that. So it's pretty good.
We have a generation now where I think the true aspiration is to be on a reality show. And I think that's so interesting, the times that we live in. But I was watching 90 Days Before the 90 Days. I think it was the 10th part of their Couples Tell All. Yeah. I mean, that thing just lasted forever.
Couples Tell All, season 17,000, episode 54B7.
No. Sean Robinson, the host, I mean, how checked out is she at this point? Like,
she doesn't even watch it. She doesn't even watch it.
I am more troubled by Sean Robinson than I am any of the couples. And the couples are very troubling, but I'm like, what is Sean Robinson's deal at this point? Because she never seems to get past, like, she never gets angry. She's reading the cue cards. And I'm just like, what? I mean, it's got to be just like a decent enough paycheck to keep going.
Yeah, and what happens with her is she's so checked out that we always end up having some sort of stand-in host. Like one of the cast members just stands out and becomes like the terrible host.
Yes.
And sometimes it's okay and sometimes it's real bad.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, what's his squishy? What's that guy's name?
Oh, Niles. Yeah, Niles. And Matilda. Mm-hmm.
So Niles, he kind of was like, this was his time to shine. He was jumping in on every topic.
He was great.
And they seem to do so many breaks where they are like backstage footage, but it's like not a backstage. They just threw up black curtains. And Niles, like it is so weird. It's like a WWE event when you're like backstage. Like it is so weirdly not false, but just such a bizarre reality. And I was watching, the reunion, the final part of it last night. And I said to Rebecca, I was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like, I don't know if I can do this because it is so bizarre. And like, there's not one, I mean, I guess there's certain people you root for in a sense, but overall, you'll root for somebody and then they'll give their opinion on another couple that is so batshit crazy in itself where you're like, oh my God, how is this happening?
It's become very formulaic. Like it's almost as if they cast these people. Like we need to have the sex tourist. We need to have the Islamic man who wants to cover up his wife and everyone else is going to come after him. We have to have, the woman who doesn't want to convert, but someone wants to make her convert. Like we have to have these certain tropes. Yeah. And so I don't know. I'm very excited about the new season of 90 Day Fiance OG because there's going to be a throuple. And I'm real excited about
Finally. They say that we're not progressing as humanity, but I think we are. I mean, that does get me in there immediately. And there's, I think 90 Day, once you get to these different iterations, like The Last Resort, you have these 90 Day stars, which is ridiculous because nobody should be considering themselves stars in the 90 Day universe. Yeah. But it is weird. Like you got Gina and Jasmine who are no longer together, I believe. And you have these people that are like, oh, this isn't a career, you guys. You don't depend on this. I don't need to be taking care of you for the rest of your life.
The one, I will say, the one shining star of Last Resort for me is Florian. I can have Florian on my screen 24/7.
Now, Florian, just to explain to people, he is married to
Stacy of Darcy and
Darcy.
Stacey.
I always call it Darcy and Starcy. Darcy and Stacy. He's married. You like Florian?
Look, I don't like Florian as a human being. I like Florian as entertainment on my screen.
Okay.
He's always saying the most foul things. Every other word out of his mouth is the F word. He's calling people out. He's saying ridiculous stuff. He's ridiculous. And
okay, so you're saying, that's what I always do with like Lisa Barlow on Salt Lake City. I'm like, I never usually agree with anything Lisa says, but for just pure entertainment value, I am so entertained. Yep. And I think audiences, I always try to like remind people is that you're part of the enjoyment is to be angry. Part of that, it's like people are like, fire her. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? That's part of the ride is to have these people say ridiculous things. We had breaking news that Via from 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days is now a married woman, but not to...
Oh, Vea.
Vea, sorry. Not to her previous love interest, Sunny, who we saw on the show. Her dog sitter she got married to.
The dog sitter, yep. Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought?
And I was informed this morning by my lovely co-host Amanda that the person who performed the surgery, listen to me, the ceremony was from the LDS church. So I don't know what's going on there.
Wow.
And we know that Vea has like a lot of religious trauma. She by her own admission, she was pretty much raised in a cult. So I don't know what's going on.
Well, Sunny tried to get her to convert to, the Muslim faith, right? And she was like, no, but wow, that is interesting. Gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Who is the couple in 90 Day? It's the younger kid and dating the Polish girl.
Joey and Magna. Yeah.
Yeah, Joey and Magna. And, on the fifth or sixth part of the reunion.
I call him Joey Buttafuoco.
Yeah. He's just like, I don't know, man. Like,
he's my people. He's my people. Yeah.
But it's basically, he's hooked up with a lot of people in his past. And people keep coming out of the woodwork.
He has banged every one of his friends, Ryan. Every one of his friends. And Sean even said, nobody wants to come to the tell-all. Why is that? And he's like, I don't know.
But like I love that she still acts surprised and disappointed when you're like, this is this dude. So it is weird because I'm like, who of these people will we see continue on in the 90 Day universe?
I was wondering that too, and I think I would actually like to see Joey and Magna. He calls her Magda. He calls her Magna. He calls her Magda.
Well, he barely can open his mouth. He's just so you can tell he's a lazy guy because he talks very slow.
He is a total New Jersey bro. I know them, love them, grew up amongst them. That's what he is. And I think they might be on, but not yet.
Okay.
But I see them in the future, I think.
Well, a couple we talked about him last time is Lauren. And Lauren, went on a bunch of shows before he even filmed, and he just seemed like a real scumbag. But he really played the victim and very sensitive in the reunion, which I thought was such a weird tactic that people were actually buying at the end of this is how crazy they are. I'm like, Lauren, it is so obvious. What is Lauren's deal? He just wants attention, right?
Yeah, and I think Vanya was the one that we saw kind of buying it.
Yes.
And Vanya, like, I see you, Vanya. You are me, I am you. She just has trash taste in men. So we just have to keep her away at all times from people who can just suck her into that kind of stuff.
The last night's episode, Vanya, or Sunday night's episode, Vanya, they kept going back to her for like interviews after the reunion had been filmed. And I was like, she must be the most sane one there because they keep letting her talk.
She's one of those people, and you know them and I know them. She's extremely emotionally intelligent about everyone else's relationship except her own.
Yes, it is what that's what it's like, so hypocritical, the whole show. Yep. And then what's so funny is that like that's the end of the couples tell all, and then it seems like none of these people want to leave and they just like loiter around backstage, like
except for Joey. He took off.
Yeah, Joey's out, but the rest of them are just like fiddling around, and like I just feel like they probably just want to stay there as much as possible because they have to go back to their lives after they leave this studio in Jersey.
And Magda's like, can anyone go out and get me vodka?
Well, yeah, Magda's on a Zoom in another country, and I was like, whoa, it's crazy. And then we have Brian, who is in a wheelchair, and this is a man.
I hate him too.
I initially, when he came on the show, I was kind of like, okay, I like this guy, and then pretty quickly it turned where it was just so much weird toxic masculinity. And explain to the audience who Brian turned out to be in your eyes.
So Brian turned out to be somebody who he's definitely a sex tourist. He has proposed to 7 women.
What is a sex tourist? Just your definition, Amy.
Just somebody who looks for women from other countries to manipulate with money, manipulate with dangling the American dream in front of them, assuming everybody wants to come to America, that kind of behavior. And just wants to, the minute he landed, he was like, okay, the countdown is down. Ingrid has to bang me. And if she doesn't, it's a problem. Like, it was just, the pressure was on. And when she wouldn't do it, and I mean, all lines of consent were crossed. Like, it was real gross.
Guys, it was so creepy.
Episodes.
And in his talking head, he was like, listen, if I do my business and, I guess, sorry, trigger warning, ejaculate, is that all right to say? My head could possibly explode. Like, he's like, it's real bad for me. But then he was so offended that she would not potentially let him go downtown on her. And he was offended, made it a big deal. And then obviously this guy is starting to be so creepy and a bully. And then we saw unseen footage where, after they split, he's still in the country and immediately goes out to a bar and finds this lady with braces on. And he says, I've had a better time with her the last couple hours than I did this whole relationship.
Yeah, because he was on like OkCupid. I think he said when he saw it wasn't going well with Ingrid. So not even after they broke up, before they broke up. And then he immediately, he's a dirtbag. He's a dirtbag. And he lied to her several times. And then in real time was gaslighting her into thinking that he didn't lie to her about anything. We have the footage. We can see you, we can see you through the camera. It was just bizarre. I don't know why these men, I don't know what you think.
Listen, we're idiots, but like this is almost a step up in breed of idiot. And it is so weird because everywhere you look, there is something so weird and toxic and bad. And that's like, I was like, man, thank God it ended this week because I was like, I don't know if I can do another, like it feels like you just need a shower at some point because you're like, this is so bad and troubling. And these people, I mean, they're not probably going to go get counseling after this. And now they're off TV. And what happens now?
Right. And I think you're really onto something. Like there's a whole swath of people who want to be on these shows and they know they act this way. They know it's going to come out like this, but I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know if they think that they're going to somehow manipulate the edit. You can't manipulate Matt Sharp. He's the master manipulator. What are you talking about?
I mean, listen, I think Matt Sharp, personally, one of my idols. He produces
He's our
all
Lord
the
and
90 Day
Savior.
stuff.
We love him.
He also does Love During Lockup and Love Before Lockup or however many Love.
Yes.
He does all of those shows.
Yes.
But at some point, like, is he sitting in a mansion going, this is the house that shit built? Like, it's got to be, I mean, like, why? I mean, you just got to wonder what this guy is thinking of. Like, what a mess. I got into this for the purest of reasons. And now I'm getting emails from people, like, just weird cast members. I thought I was telling this sweet story of this Brazilian woman who wanted to come to America to marry the guy she loved. And look where I'm at now. But I like that 90 Day Fiance is like, hey, you think this is troubling? Come on over to WeTV and we'll show you Love During Lockup, or like that's when it gets like wild. Like Love After Lockup, Love During Lockup. He produces those as well, and you're like. And I always tell people because I tell people I watch it on the show, but I never really go into it. But we tried to get our friends into it in Arizona, and they tried an episode, and they were kind of like, what is wrong with you guys? Like, this is like bad. This is weird bad. Yeah. And I was like, no, just keep going till it hooks you. Yeah. What do you think the difference between 90 Day and Love, like, are there different vibes? I know it's very different topics.
It's interesting because one of the ongoing jokes in the Love After Lockup world is that Brittany and Marcelino, when Marcelino was interviewed very early on, they're one of the OG couples from Love After Lockup. And he was interviewed and said, like, oh, this is a documentary on recidivism. Like, that's what he honestly thought it was. And I think that maybe Matt Sharp thought it might be. Like, let's show how these people but what it has turned into is just a parade of bad choices.
Yes.
And
it is
I will
awful.
tell you, I watch a lot of reality television. I know you do too. There are many shows that I can wait a day or two after they come out. Love After Lockup is not one of them. I watch it the minute it drops and I never miss it.
Okay. Yeah, Amy. So this is how our Fridays go. Like, I usually am so like slammed during the week. It really is like really stressful during the week, even though it's just a podcast.
Yeah.
And then Friday, all I'm working for is Friday night when I can get to a new episode of Love During Lockup or Love After Lockup. And that is my decompression because I get really into it. I will say Love During Lockup this season I felt was a little thin of storyline. I felt it wasn't as hefty as previous seasons have been, or Love After Lockup.
I agree. I mean, we could never match the season where we had Ty and Hottie and Ty's phone and her taking the call next to the deceased person in the funeral home where she worked and her board. I mean, we could never top that.
But it's this magical show. And this season, season 3, we had there was one couple I wanted to talk about, and I will say I was so excited for the finale this past Friday, and we have to wait, I think, until March until the new season of Love After Lockup. Is that true?
Yeah, they're doing like a special crime story, and so they have some of the past. We just interviewed Louis from Melissa and Louis. He's going to be on it.
Is he still at the pizza place?
He's I think he is still at the pizza place, but he's also becoming a realtor and he's a personal trainer.
If we could get Louis on Selling Sunset, that would be a fish out of water. Louis gets
great.
on. Well, I would love to talk to him just because he seems like a guy that guy actually really like, because he seems like he really wants his stuff in order, and that, the Melissa relationship can be a little troubling to watch on screen, but he seems like really positive.
He has such a compelling story too. Like he's just amazing. I really admire him. And
is that episode already out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I got to check that out. Does he talk? By the way, Louis had this mom that was so stereotypical mom that I was like, there's
Jersey
no
mom.
way. I was like, there's no way this is real. There's no way that Louis' mom is really Louis' mom. That's really Louis' mom, right?
Yeah, yeah. And we asked him about the famous scene where she's in the house coat and she's banging on the window with the spoon.
The spoon, yes. I was like, there's no way they didn't say action. Like, there's no way they didn't do this 3 times, because it was cinematically kind of perfect as well.
Yeah. You know what's interesting too is he told us this story because I asked him, do you think being on the show brought you closer with Melissa or put a strain on your relationship? And he said he doesn't even know if they would be together today without the show, because of financial constraints, the show would fly Melissa down to him to film and stuff. So he's like, that was the only way I was able to see her. And we got really close through all that time when we were filming.
I loved their engagement because he put out all of these things like, will you marry me? But he made her like climb up this like water tower. And she was like livid because she didn't want to exercise. Like, she was like, what are you doing?
It was like a 30-foot high. Like it was pretty high. It was like a little baby lighthouse or something. And she had these heels on that were like 8 inches tall. She's trying to climb all the little tiny narrow windy stairs. I was like,
and he thought he was being the king of romance, which I really like Louis. A lot of these other people scare me. Now in season 3, the couple that I wanted to talk to you about are Kate and Hunter. And
Kaylee.
Kate is and Kaylee. So there's a third person in this. She's a hairdresser. They both live in Arizona, in Phoenix. Yeah. Kate's a yoga instructor. Mm-hmm. If Kaylee is the name, she's a hairdresser. And Hunter is in prison and was with Kate. And Kate is the one that suggested he go on this prison, like...
yes, she sent him out to get on a Write a Prisoner website. So Write a Prisoner is this website that... I don't know, Ryan. I mean, I've been covering this show for like 5 years and it's never appeared in my search history, but somehow...
that was actually going to be one of my questions. Just because you're a professional podcaster now that covers these shows, do you ever consider trying to get like a jump on the competition and start just emailing random prisoners in case they ever make it on the show?
I would, let me tell you something. The only prisoner I think I would communicate right now is Eric Menendez. I would communicate with him 100% because I want to buy his artwork.
Wait. Sorry to stop with the Love During Lockup. Wait, why Mr. Menendez? Wait, what? Wait.
I may have a small crush on Eric Menendez. Not Lyle. Eric.
Oh boy.
Eric.
Oh, wait, I love that you're like, not Lyle. That guy's crazy. Not Lyle. Eric.
I have standards.
You know what, by the way, I feel like your listenership would really, you would do them a solid if you did write him a letter and read it out loud on the show and then see if he writes back.
Yeah. I could do that. I mean, I'd have to tell him I'm married, but I could do it. I'm sure, he would not be tempted in any way, but I could write to him.
I like that you said, I have to tell him I'm married. Would you tell your husband that you're writing Mr. Menendez? That's the more important question.
Listen, my husband listens to my trash show. He knows everything. He's probably like, yeah, okay. We're going to have an Eric Menendez original on the wall.
Whatever makes you happy.
Yep.
Oh, listen, we'll get back to Love During Lockup in a sec, but you said, OJ, there's a new Netflix documentary.
Yes.
And that OJ Simpson for me was this cultural touchstone in terms of like, that was the first thing of mixing pop culture with true crime.
Yep.
And that to me was that first moment because it was televised, the Bronco chase. And I was really fixated on that case and I've watched everything, read everything. So it's still interesting for new documentaries to pop up.
I know you're like, what else could they say at this point? What has not been said about it? But there's probably a ton of stuff.
There is a good little piece of this where I think it's his agent he's recounting a story about OJ where they're out there looking at a tree in his backyard saying, oh, me and Nicole, like, I guess the pool water was like making the tree die, and said, me and Nicole spent so much money trying to save this tree. And now she's no longer here with us, but this tree is still here. She should be here. And the agent says, come on, OJ, what really happened? And he's like, what do you think happened? And the agent said, listen, I always thought you did it. He goes, I don't think of you as a murderer, but I always did. And then OJ says, according to him in this documentary, Nicole would still be alive if she didn't open the door with a knife.
Wow.
Almost like blaming, it's like this, it's like Tom Sandoval with Ariana. Like, dude, you don't even know what Ariana did. It's like Nicole wouldn't, if she hadn't opened the door with a knife, she would still be alive. If she just didn't know,
stupid girl opened her door. What are you going to do? Had to kill her.
I also was in all black leggings and like a suit just ready to jump. But
I drove there to murder her.
Yes.
But, hey.
And also planned a flight within, it's all so obvious, yet it is so interesting. And I think that's why reality shows and Love During Lockup and all of these things exist, because even the things that are the most obvious to me, like the OJ thing, there are still people, diehard people that are like, he's innocent. He was framed. There is the mafia involved. His son is involved.
Is that not fact yet? I feel like it should be fact by now.
No, you'll go if you want. This is why I don't really go on Twitter much anymore, because it'll literally scare the shit out of you. Like, type in OJ and just see. You'll just get so frightened immediately and see, like, oh my God, I'm in the minority potentially. This is wild.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm interested to watch it. I'll cover anything about that case. I remember. Do you remember where you were when the verdict was read?
Yeah, I was in, I believe either it was the end, it was like a high school lunch, I remember.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, but yeah, I remember that was what, well, there was 2 trials and one was reenacted on ETV. Do you remember that one? Because they couldn't have cameras in the courtroom and they had actors do it.
God,
yes.
I don't
yes.
It was
like, yes.
Oh, God.
It was wild. And then like you had the dancing Itos on Jay Leno's show.
I remember the dancing Itos. Yep. I remember that. I remember, well, and we saw this in the newest documentary, the newest John Bonet documentary. And again, I tell my kids all the time, if you did not grow up during this time period, you do not understand. When Geraldo had the mock trial and he found Patsy Ramsey guilty of murder, and like that was it. He's like, okay, you're guilty, boom. And it was like some woman who said, I'm going to be the judge. It was so crazy.
We have lived through, you think these times are crazy. And I think it's just because we see everything so much 24/7 everywhere. But back then it was crazy as well. It was just not, we just didn't have as many options for crazy. Now crazy is everywhere when it was like so selective and like, oh, that's bomb. Like, remember what was it 10 years ago when the Ramsey son went on Dr. Phil?
Yes. Yep.
And I remember I was like, that kid did it.
The CBS special came out and they were pretty much like he did it, and he sued them and won like got a bunch of money. Yeah.
Dude, if that kid did kill John Bonet, he must be like, oh my God, I can't believe I won. This is amazing. But the new docuseries that came out, I think at the end of last year or later on November, really takes the stance that it is not the family at all. Is that the father?
It even persuaded me. It persuaded me, and for a long time I thought it was in the family. But I read so many articles after that where I was like, oh, that documentary doesn't seem as well researched as it presents itself. Yeah, you really have to listen to some of the. I've listened to a lot of podcasts that are done by like lawyers and criminal experts and stuff like that, and I don't know, some of the stuff just pointed me in the direction of Intruder, but it is a very heated case. Like, people have an opinion. My mother told me to keep her alive artificially if possible until that case is solved, because she does not want diamonds unsolved.
Oh, wow. I don't know. When I first started the show, I think I said this in one of the first episodes, like 5 years ago. I was like, I always think like if heaven exists, there's like a heaven machine and you get to like ask 3 questions, right?
Okay.
Like, and so obviously you're going to want to know something about your personal life. But I was like, 5 years ago, I was like, I think still one of mine would be the Jean Bonet thing.
Yes. Because
it's probably a simple answer you'd be disappointed with.
Because today I'm saying to you, Intruder, but I could watch something tomorrow and be right back in the John Ramsey did a case camp.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I'm saying. So like, I feel like the heaven machine is the only way that we'll be able to ever get the answers. But everything's a docuseries now. Anyway, sorry, back to Love During Lockup. We had Kate and Hunter, and then sign him up on this website, and he is getting money on his books from all these ladies, but then he meets this girl, I think Kaylee, the hairdresser.
I'm so mad that I can't remember her name right now, but I think it was Kaylee.
Yeah, and so they start dating, and he is lying to Kate then and saying he's broken off all these relationships because he's going to get released pretty soon. And so we see this girl having this relationship like separately and like is getting engaged. We're seeing her go to like sex toy shops and buying toys and like going to prison and like touching. Like, by the way,
giving them hand jobs under the table. Let's just say it.
Prison is starting to sound so amazing. They get these tablets where you can like communicate with people nonstop. You can get hand jobs there. Like I don't know where but then
prison. Your next destination where you can get hand jobs and a tablet.
Well, that's what I said. I said if prison ever advertises that they started like having Netflix and Peacock, I'd be like, I'm robbing a bank. Like, I don't need this stuff on the outside. But so the finale, you guys, not to spoil it, but the 2 women find out about each other, and I want to believe in the reality of this storyline so much.
Yeah.
But to me, it was so, I need your take on this because I listened to you and I think you kind of bought into it. But to me, it read so false because we see the hairdresser lady that thought this guy, like they were going to get married on the out. She goes and takes the sex toy and goes into the desert and buries it. And there's a beautiful drone shot of her burying the sex toy.
Which is second funeral for a sex toy that we've seen on Love After Lockup, by the way.
But did you also notice that they must have invested in drones this season? Because we also got a drone shot at the hotel of the other guy that just got out with. And I was like, wow, they're really trying to do fancy shots and we don't even need that. So there was like this overhead drone shot. And then at the end, Hunter says, oh yeah, I broke it off with her, but now we're still back together and Kate doesn't know. We're still together, right?
I don't know what's happening.
Come on, this is fake, right? This is fake.
I thought her reaction to seeing the trailer was real.
Yeah, so she found out, the other woman found out by watching the first trailer for Love During Lockup, you guys, and she was like, wait a second, what? He's got another woman before me? And then she's like livid, and I believed that moment, but then the rest of it and her going back to him, I didn't believe.
I hope it's not true, but on this show, I mean, women do a lot of dumb things on this show.
Amy, can't you guys do the hard investigative work and find out if this is true for me? Like, there was part of me is like, she
must not have good girlfriends in her life, because good girlfriends would never allow this to happen.
But do we know if Hunter's actually in prison, or are they just doing a cheap? Like, is this an actor, like a cheap phony shot? I
think in real time he's out and he's with Kate.
How would Kate ever? How do you go on a but oh God, I
think Kate is the worst person. Well, Hunter's pretty bad.
No, but Hunter's the worst. Don't blame this all.
I think Kate is real bad too, though, because she knows he's using these other women and she's encouraging it.
I love during the season, Hunter was like, yeah, I need some more money on my books because I paid $200 for shoes. And I'm like, there's a fucking Nike store in prison? Like, where are you buying how do you get the shoes? And he spent $200.
Louis was telling us you could get anything in prison. Anything.
See, this is what I'm telling you. It sounds so good at times. And then we have this other couple, which infuriated me as well, Sam and Crystal. And Crystal is in, and Sam is like, I think, an EMT that moved, got a house, takes care of her grandma. There's a weird relationship with the grandma happening. And then Sam, he doesn't, he's working. Crystal gets pissed that Sam doesn't visit her when he's sad, but he's like, I've got to put money on the table. And she's another one that these are the things I pick up. She's like, oh, I binged. I spent all my money because I binged a show in here. I'm like, you binged a show like I binged a show? You binged a show in prison.
And then she's always guilting her grandmother, her poor grandmother. Her name's Rita. She's like this woman who just wants to freaking retire and just sit in her recliner, her lazy boy, and watch reruns of Geraldo or something. But she's being terrorized by Sam, who's constantly taking her out to eat and putting her on the phone in public spaces with Crystal, who's putting her through this big guilt trip for not coming to see her. It's weird.
This is what I love about having somebody on, because we have differing opinions. This is how I read it.
Okay.
I read it as the grandma and Sam have a flirty relationship, and the grandma is actually super into Sam. And no, listen, this is why I don't cover the show. I was like, there's something weird going on.
Like a Mrs. Robinson situation?
Something. Something is happening, because he's always bringing her food, and she's like, you got my groceries.
Well, here's the thing. I think she's real disappointed in her own children and grandchildren.
As she should be.
She likes Sam. She's like, okay, Sam, I'll keep you around.
But Sam, they're all super creepy. And he got this house, so when she gets out, they have a place to go. And he's like, she's telling him things to get for when she's out, and he's stocking up. But she asked for a big fridge, and he got a mini college dorm room fridge. And he's like, what do you want from me, babe? I'm trying. It was so funny.
Meanwhile, he's driving around like a $45,000 Jeep, and he can't afford a fridge. Yeah.
Listen.
And then he's buying all these groceries. She gives him a grocery list because she might get out on Friday. And I'm like, I hope those are all things you'll eat, because she's not getting out and they're going to go bad. But it was like Hamburger Helper and shit.
It's truly insane. And then the one couple actually is going to be on Love After Lockup. Which couple is that? It's the one that
Savannah
I don't really
and Bradley.
I just don't care are there stories where you're like, oh, I wish they hadn't chosen that couple? Yeah. I don't
Bradley without an E is real dumb and said to the cameras, oh yeah, if I have an opportunity to sell drugs, if I could make some money when I get out, I'm going to do it. I'm like, you're being recorded, dude.
This is what I don't get. They're talking about getting hand jobs. They're talking about this. They're talking about selling dope on the outside. It is so bizarre what is able to go on. And I'm like, does any of the prison system give a crap that they're literally on a television show, filming
I was just going to ask you that.
Prison?
Do you imagine the warden is just sitting back every Friday night watching this show?
Well, this is where my mind goes. I'm like, we need an update of Shawshank Redemption where one of the characters is on Love During Lockup, and Andy's like, get busy living or get busy dying, but he's doing it as a talking head.
Perfect. Perfect.
So we have this couple going to Love During Lockup in Love After Lockup in March, but it's this couple I don't really care about. She thinks she's really cute and funny, and
she lives in the Thomas Jefferson house.
Yeah, weird house that has
columns
and a hidden room where there's a screening room.
A Narnia room.
Yeah, the Narnia room. Guys, By the way, the people that don't watch it are like, what are you talking about? I'm just telling you, give it a shot. It'll suck you in.
It's good. Oh, and the old seasons, they put all the old seasons on Peacock, I believe.
Okay, that's helpful information.
So you can start from season 1. And season 1 was a banger. So you get Andrea and Lamar on season 1.
I do hear if you do watch it on Peacock, you are immediately on a watch list. Is there any truth to that?
Probably.
Yeah, I would actually support that. So obviously, I think the crown in TLC's, the jewel in TLC's crown is Sister Wives.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different vibe than Love During Lockup, 90 Day Fiance. Completely different vibe. And we just hit is this the finale or is this a mid-season finale?
Mid-season finale. This is a new thing they're doing. They've never done this before. And we think it's because they had to rewrite a lot of stuff. So if you're not familiar, audience, trigger warning.
Trigger warning, yeah.
Yeah. Janelle's son passed away in March, and it was self-inflicted. It was a very bad situation. And I think what happened is they already had a lot of footage done already, and they needed to redo a lot. So I think that's what's happening here. So rumor has it they're coming back later spring. That's what they keep saying. And there's going to be like 7 or 8 more episodes.
So you made an interesting point, you guys, on your weekly roundup over the weekend, where you said there was a scene this past week at the Coyote Pass with the picnic tables, and you believe, or you ladies believe, that it was shot after Garrison's death. Is that correct?
Yeah, because we have a lot of fellow friends and listeners in that area who drive past Coyote Pass regularly. Maybe
you've got a bunch
business,
of listeners that are like near Coyote Pass.
Yeah,
can somebody just get me a rock for my reality show museum at Coyote Pass? Like something.
There you go.
Like
somebody make it happen,
guys. If anybody's listening from Amy's fan base, please, if you're by Coyote, don't get shot by Cody, but just give me something.
Yeah. So they said the picnic tables, they think they were painted in late summer 2024, and he passed in March 2024. So we think some of the scenes, especially the scenes with Cody and Robin, and there's one again this week that just aired Sunday, that we think were shot after and just kind of used as filler. And it kind of makes sense when you go back and you rewatch those scenes through that lens. They feel heavier a little bit. They feel different.
That's what you said that I found very interesting, was that if you look at it through the lens of that, you feel that there is a darkness and a heaviness. But the thing is, what's so interesting is that now I really am obsessed to find out if that's true or not, because sometimes I feel like once we know information, we put that on a scene. You can read a scene like 3 different ways.
Yep.
So you're like, oh, I'm putting that on. But, to your point, you are right. If you look at it, like Cody's always angry and pissy and like, how dare these women leave me?
Yes.
How dare they do that? How dare my kids not speak to me?
Everything happens to Cody.
Yeah. Why is this all done to me? Like, it is so... I mean, this is why it's like a dark comedy, like the darkest of comedies, but he always blames everybody else. But just him at those picnic tables, like, I don't want to get rid of it. I don't want to get rid of Coyote Pass. And Robin is there, always just on the verge of tears. And then this week's episode, Robin's daughter comes to them and says she wants to get baptized in a new church, not their whole thing. But then she starts tearing up and she goes, will you baptize me, to Cody? And Cody needed a win this season. He needed a win. He was like, can I do that? Will they let me do that? Are you kidding me? Oh, of course. Like, it is so,
good.
It's so weird.
I think you need a wig and you could do a TikTok as him. I think it would work.
Well, we talked about this last time, is that I'll watch that show. And sometimes, guys, it is a little bit of a slow paced show, and they will make episodes out of the smallest things. In fact, I think they're even getting worse with just the pace and the banality of some of the scenes. But Cody's hair, from when I talked to you in December and watching to now, a lot more patches have gone missing in this area.
I agree. Absolutely. And I also want to say that this week we had Janelle do her first shot.
Oh, guys.
And that
Janelle
was her
a slippery nipple, right?
It was a nipple.
So it's like a butterscotch. And David is now married to Christine. And it looks like, I mean, she is happy. She's horny. She is like,
oh my God. She is ready. She's down to clown that one.
David, she's a juggaloo, dude. David's always like, yeah, a shrimp. I love shrimp. Yeah. He said shrimp 2 episodes ago, and me and my girlfriend just will always go, shrimp.
Guys, they have an Airbnb, and he wanted a room done in a shrimp room. A shrimp room.
Shrimp. And Christine was so proud of this Airbnb, gets it without him looking at it. And she's like, I'm so excited you to see it. And it's like a cute little, I mean, it's nothing crazy, but
it's
he's like,
fine. Yeah.
He goes, I love it. I love it. And then he goes, it's, that standard microwave that's built into he goes, wow, a microwave. Oh, he's like, loves everything. He's like, oh,
it's like a microwave hood. Everybody has one.
But also Christine, you can see how that fills her up. And she's like, wow, I am good at decorating and finding places. And that's what she needs. But they take Janelle, who is like Thelma and Louise with Christine, and they take her to a bar, and she's had some wine and maybe some beer, but she's never had a shot. And she does just one shot of slippery nipple, the easiest shot you can do. And she's like, ooh, I can feel it in my legs. I can feel it in my legs.
Just like me.
I can feel it in my legs. And then they order again. They're like, do you want another one? And she's like, no, I'll just take a beer. And then David and Christine, did you notice their drink orders was just another slippery nipple? Or they were just like, another one. And I was like, no water?
They had a terrible bartender too, I have to say, because they're like, what do you recommend for somebody who's never had a shot? And the bartender's like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
do you want Miller Lite? I don't know what to give you.
Yeah, I was
suggest something.
Dude, Bacardi 151er, just like really knock her off. So this mid-season we end, and we're all at these. I'm so curious because I know this show will continue on probably forever. And we have Mary, who is like, we got the Airbnb going, which part of me really wants to stay at the Airbnb at a chance. Yeah. And what do you think about Mary's ironic t-shirts that she wears?
Well, I bought a few of them. So I bought her
So she
t-shirt.
sells them.
No. I bought it on Amazon where she bought it. And it says, I saw that, Karma.
Yes, that was the one from a couple episodes ago. I put that on my Instagram story.
I surprised Amanda on air with it. She was dying.
By the way, Amanda is her co-host. Just
she's
hi, Amanda, if you're listening. Yeah.
She so she wears that shirt all the time. So I bought it off of Amazon. I think it was $10. It was itchy. It's the worst quality shirt I've ever had in my entire life, but I don't care. Mary loves a graphic tee. She loves her tea to say what she cannot say. I don't know. But Mary, like, she'll have her one episode, maybe 3 episodes ago, her whole storyline was Mary hangs curtains.
Yeah.
Mary destroys a sign. Mary paints a wall. I don't know what we're doing with her.
It's so thin. So when you watch these shows over years and years, you're just looking then at character behavior. You're just looking at you could watch this person read the phone book at this point. And you'd be like, okay, but it's such an easy show to produce. So that's why when something really tragic like Garrison happens, and you guys commented this and I agree with it, I don't want to see it. Like this is an actual storyline that most reality shows, if you were on Real Housewives, would make like a whole thing out of. And I'm fine with never getting into the details. Like we all know it happened.
Yeah, we don't need the details, but I would like to see, there is this little Pollyanna inside of me that wants to see this family come back together. Not be remarried, but just be okay with each other. And I was hoping that that's what happened, that this would have brought them closer. But we know that has not happened.
Well, you said, I think your podcast said at the funeral, Janelle and Cody didn't even sit together.
Yeah, no, they didn't. No. And something happened. McKelty has sort of inferred on her. She does a Patreon live, I guess. And she has kind of made reference to a falling out either over the funeral or something around Garrison.
Falling out with with who?
McKelty was pretty much the only child still talking to Cody.
Oh.
And I don't know if that is happening anymore. She said
another child has betrayed me. All my children have betrayed me.
The best thing in the world is he does cameos like an idiot, right? And he charges like $200 for these cameos. And so many times I've been tempted to get one, but I don't want to give him $200.
Yeah.
But he does cameos and people troll him and they'll ask him for like parenting advice and stuff. And this one cameo, he's like, make sure that you keep your kids in line so they don't ruin your life, essentially. Like, oh, these kids, they'll do anything to betray you. And you're just like, dude.
And I bet he does it all like Jax Taylor, where he's like, just looking to the distance. He's like, I got to tell you, I needed this cameo today. I needed to get this out. I'm glad you asked this question. You know, you got to make sure they respect you because I did everything for those kids.
Yeah.
I did everything for those kids. So we're actually gearing up for potentially a war over Coyote Pass because all of these ladies had plots in there. I know Christine has gotten out, but Janelle wants her money. And did you notice this week? I mean, this week started off like a throwback to OJ because Janelle was like, Cody doesn't know I'm leaving. It was like almost like felt like in the dark of night. And Cody's like, well, I found out because one of the kids opened their mouths.
Al swings by, picks her up in the Bronco.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And Cody's like sells guns for a living. And I was like, oh my God, you didn't even tell Cody you were leaving.
And what's so interesting is now the dissolution of Coyote Pass has brought up all of the financial entanglements. So that's what is kind of keeping the audience glued to this
women
right
and
now.
their numbers, them needing a living.
And Cody has always told us that Janelle is like, I don't know, some kind of Mr. HR Block back there and just kind of winging these numbers
She goes,
around.
no, I was just like adding things. Like I was just the person that had to add things.
She's like, I'm the only one who had access to the website and just saw the balance going down all the time. I wasn't doing anything. But what's so interesting is when Janelle sold her house in Flagstaff or in Vegas, that money went into Robin's house and she's never going to see that again.
See, you guys, if you don't watch the show, when they were all sister wives, they would like earn money and then it would go to another sister wife, or they wanted a new kitchen. It would go over here, but it would
family pot, supposedly.
But it would mainly go to Robin. Like they had the nicest, and that's where Cody stayed for the majority. I mean, if all of the pandemic, but he, you know, he likes Robin better. And then this week was so disgusting because he was like, cleaning the dishes, and he was like, I'm trying to turn on my wife. You like this? You like this? And I was like, oh, could you imagine? Like,
now he feels like the gloves are off. Ironically, his little driving gloves, they're off because now he's a monogamist and he can talk openly about how much he wants to bang Robin. So that's what he's gonna do. And it's so gross. It's so hyper masculine. It's ugh.
But there is a weird thing that we were talking about that you can tell there was also some sexual chemistry between him and Janelle. And I know that's hard. Like,
I know.
I mean,
yeah.
Not with Christine and not with Mary, but Janelle for some reason. And he's like, no, I don't care about her in that way at all. I wasn't thinking that anything was going to happen when I took her out for her birthday dinner. But there is something there that I think they got freaky with each other in a good way.
I agree 100%. And I think what Janelle offered Cody that really none of the other wives did was Janelle gave him a little bit of a chase. He had to chase Janelle a little bit. Mary was always around like, pick me, pick me, pick me. Christine wanted more attention all the time, where Janelle was like, I don't care if you come over. It's fine if you don't. And I think that did some damage to his ego. And
if you don't want me there, I will be there.
Yes. Blame yourself if I don't love you.
Yeah.
You know, he's just,
Blame the dear Lord. Lord, why have you forsaken me?
Yeah. Yes.
If people were to start Sister Wives, where would you recommend they start?
I really recommend starting from the beginning because you just have to. It is a show that you can. So I believe on Reddit, if you want to go there, there's a heavily curated list of episodes throughout all the seasons that can take you on that journey. Because you don't have to watch every single episode, but you do have to watch the beginning just to kind of see that episode 1. Christine is on record saying, I don't want Robin to come into the family. I don't feel good about this. I'm jealous. This is like everything in her is screaming that this is the end of their family. And it's so interesting to watch the progression of that.
You're recapping season 3, right?
Yeah, on our Patreon. Mm-hmm.
On your Patreon. So you're going back, dipping into the classics. And I do wonder where this will end, if this will end, but also coming up on TLC in February, we have the Baldwins, which sharing the same network as Sister Wives and 90 Day Fiance, which tickles me to no end. Will you be covering the Baldwins?
We're not going to cover it, but I'm not going to lie. I'm probably going to watch it. You're not
going to cover the Baldwins? Oh, I'm going to watch the hell out of it.
Well, I didn't realize they were going to talk about Rust. I didn't realize they were going to talk about it because
they need to paint him as the victim.
I'm so used to, TLC dancing around everything. I thought they're going to give the Baldwins a show to rehab his image, but they're not going to talk about Russ, but they are. Let me tell you something about Alec Baldwin. I used to like him. And then I heard the voicemails to his daughter where he called her a pig. And I can never get over it. I can never, ever, ever, ever get over it.
That was like 25 years. That was 20 plus years ago, I think. Because that was before SNL.
And that kid was young. That girl was young.
Yeah, and you can tell
disgusting.
It really affected her. Like if you followed, Ireland is her name since. But I think TLC, it sounds so weird to have them there, but at the same time, TLC is the perfect network because I was thinking about Cody, and I'm like, Cody and Alec are two birds of the same feather.
There's a Venn diagram there, yeah.
They're, just imagine if we do like TLC upfronts and Cody meets Alec Baldwin, and just the coming together.
I'm gonna put a fly in the ointment though.
The political thing?
The political views are very different.
But
Cody probably sees him as a woke lib.
But this is maybe where we reach across the aisle, and Alex is like, I've always hated MAGA and far, but you're actually a solid guy, and your kids betrayed you like my pig kid betrayed me. And so I really respect you. And Cody's like, God damn.
Yes.
You know what? I wanted to hate you. I loved you in A Hunt for Red October. Did not understand 30 Rock at all, but you seem like a solid dude,
Yeah, you are absolutely right. There's absolutely a world where they belong together. Mm-hmm.
But imagine if Alec meets like Big Ed or Angela. Like, I'm on your same network. Like, they just come up to Alec and he's like, what has become of my life?
I'm going to watch it. I need to see it.
Did you follow the Hillary from Boston saga?
So I know about it, but I didn't follow it too closely. But I know she was passing herself off as Spanish, correct?
Yeah. From Spain.
Yes,
how do you say cucumbers? And she actually was raised in Boston, and it was really
a lot of cultural appropriation and
Yeah, and in the trailer, she mainly speaks with an American accent, her actual home accent. And then there's one little moment of the trailer where you see her slipping into the accent a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if those are going to be brought up at all. If we're talking about Rust, about somebody dying, we can talk about your accent.
Yeah, and I remember a lot. I listened to Alec Baldwin a lot over the years on Howard Stern.
Me too.
And I remember he would talk constantly about like how, this wife of mine just wants to keep popping out babies. Jesus Christ. I'm like, dude, you know how to prevent that. What are you talking about?
This woman won't let me. It's always the woman's fault, Amy. These women won't let me go.
She shouldn't open the door with the knife. It's all her fault.
Yeah, yes, it's always the same story again and again. But what's so funny about Stern? I remember Stern coming on after this Hillary from Boston thing happened, and he found out because his daughters were in Spain randomly and bumped into Ilaria's parents, her actual parents from Boston, and they came up and said, hello, we're Hillary Baldwin's parents. And they were like, Dad, they didn't have an accent. The parents didn't have an accent. And that's so Howard had already known about it before it broke because his daughters had bumped into them overseas, the parents. And I thought, how
And did he talk about it on the air at the time?
He finally talked about it after it all broke, and he was like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, Hollywood's crazy. I don't know what to tell you. I've been with these people. I've hung out with these people because they were part of that Hampton squad that they all hung out together.
Yep, with Jimmy Kimmel and everybody, Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Howard is interesting for that reason. I do find him very authentic. Like, he will shit talk somebody who he has been friends with.
Yeah.
If he finds reason to. That's the one refreshing thing I really enjoy about him.
But it's also, I think you understand this as well. And I think a lot of the listeners of Howard or people that have parasocial relationships with people on the air is that I also understand when Howard has grown over the years.
Yes.
He's like, hey, I'm at a party and I'm here with Rosie O'Donnell or Ellen DeGeneres. And I got to say, hey, this was part of a show. I was an angry young man. I said things for a reaction and trying to own those things.
He was awful.
Yeah. Oh, and admittedly so. And I found out and people were like, oh, you betrayed us. How dare you? I'm like, guys, you can accept blame for certain things that you have done, and admit when you are wrong and why you did something in the first place.
And I will say too, not to make this a Howard Stern podcast, but two things. Number one, I think Beth was really good influence on him. But I also think I have daughters, and I can tell you that my husband feels differently about women having grown daughters. Do you know what I mean? So I think Howard's whole mindset changed when his daughters became women. And suddenly you're like, oh, every single thing affects them differently than it affects me. And it's a whole change of perspective. So no, I think he's really grown.
I would love to know how that after the show is finally done. I can't wait to find out how that show was actually run, because there was so much that went into that show that nobody really knows, and the way he created relationships with his staff. To me, it was a reality show in itself. I didn't really care any about the sex stuff, which he was kind of really known for, but that stuff between his staff, he just made
he and Gary would get into like some rippers. Oh my God.
Such a caged animal situation. It was like the Artie years. And that's why I love being around, like even I get to do that Jeff Lewis thing every week. And it's like a similar, I don't think Jeff ever listened to Howard, but it's a very similar thing where he'll pull staff into a conversation and, you know, poke fun or bring something out. And I'm so used to that environment. So I love it. Sorry to go off on a rant, but as we wind down here, last time you said you were watching Mad Men. You also were talking about how much you love to read. What are you reading now?
So I'm still working on the same book. Okay, I have to come clean about something. So
I can't read.
You Can Make This Place Beautiful is a memoir by the poet Maggie Smith. That's what I'm reading. Okay. I bought the hardcover, and I have finally accepted the fact about myself that I can't read hardcover books anymore. Physical books. I can't read them. No, physical books. I can't read them. I have discovered Audible. It has changed my life, not an ad.
Amy, I'm the same way, except I discovered Libby, the public library app that I just put every book I want. And some of them are not on there, but the majority are. And it really has changed my life over the last couple of years, because I used to be weirdly OCD of like, I thought it was cheating if I didn't physically read with my eyes.
Yes.
And I felt really guilty switching. I mean, I still read, books, but I mainly listen to audiobooks. And for the longest time, I still thought, oh, this is cheating. This isn't right. And then I was like, but these aren't going to get read otherwise. And I'm desperate for this information.
Yeah. So I even text Amanda the other day, and I'm like, how do I phrase that I read this book? Do I say I read the book? It feels like it's cheating because I listened to the book.
Do I say I listened to it or I read it?
It's such an English major thing of me. But so
what speed do you listen at?
Regular speed.
Oh, wow.
But I will tell you, hearing a poet read their memoir is so beautiful. Highly recommend. Yeah.
I've fallen in love with voices. I think some people do that with podcasters, but I do that with audiobooks. And like, that's why I love David Sedaris, because I also love his writing,
David
but
Sedaris.
I love his voice so much that it's so soothing to me. And you find these, and then you get into the world of audiobooks where you're like, it's like, oh, that guy's really good. Like you hear the same dude doing like different people's books or biographies. And then what are you listening to right now, music wise?
So you'll be surprised to learn the other day on our podcast, we learned who Kendrick Lamar was.
Oh, good. We've caught up. All right. Just in time for the Super Bowl on Sunday. How did you go about learning who Kendrick was? It because of the Grammys?
I just live under a rock, and Amanda told me that he was performing at the Super Bowl, and I said, okay, I've heard his name, but I've since listened to a bunch of stuff. It's amazing. I don't know where I was hiding this, but I'm loving it. Red Clay Strays, too, our new band that I've been listening to.
Red Clay Strays. I have never heard of them.
Very good stuff.
Is that a new band or is that an old band?
They're about a year or two old. They were discovered on TikTok, I want to say.
Well, it's good if they were discovered on TikTok.
You know it's good.
But what are some of your, like, in terms of music and like growing up, what were your like favorite bands?
Oh, I'm a huge John Lennon fan. John Lennon solo, though. Huge fan.
Real, not John Lennon with the Beatles?
I mean, it's fine, but I love him on his own more.
What was your favorite? I mean, what did you think of Yoko?
I actually like Yoko, and I take a lot of heat for this.
Even
but
her
Yoko,
singing?
I don't like her singing. No. I think she cracked him open as an artist, and I think she has remained dedicated to him for the last 40 years. You've never heard of her embroiled in a scandal with anybody else. She's done everything she could to keep his memory alive. I think she's going to be looked on like one of those women where we go back and say, okay, we gave her a raw deal at the time.
As long as Sean Lennon doesn't mess it up for her legacy overall. Right. But
I was an angsty teen, and I was always listening to like the Indigo Girls, stuff like that. Yeah, Melissa Etheridge, all that.
See, this is why I feel like I'm a lesbian trapped in this body, because I would be like, Galileo's head was on the block. I love
the best
Indigo
album
Girls.
ever made.
And
Rites of Passage, you could listen to front and back and front. You're done.
And then I just listened to this REM biography, and they brought up Natalie Merchant and 10,000 Maniacs, and I
Love
was like, oh, I forgot about them.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, Natalie Merchant had such a great voice. There was like this great period of time in music that you forget some of these voices that were like so powerful and really successful at the time too. And you're like, where is Natalie Merchant now?
Well, and for me as a writer, it's all about the songwriting. So like, I really love the Avett brothers. They're great songwriters. Yeah. I love Ryan, not Brian, Ryan Adams, even though he's problematic as hell. I still like his songs.
Yeah,
Jason Isbell, I really like.
I love Jason Isbell. I love Jason Isbell. Did you see that documentary about the Avett brothers that Judd Apatow directed like 4 or 5 years ago? Really good documentary.
Really good. Yep.
Okay, and then finally, what else are you? I mean, you're watching Mad Men, you're watching all these other shows. Do you guys dip into do you watch Severance for fun? Do you watch anything else?
We watch a lot of sci-fi, but for some reason, we have not started it yet. It is on our list. I know it's on our list, but we just finished Outer Range. Did you watch Outer Range?
That was with Josh Brolin on Prime. Is that right? Is it good?
I thought it was really good. It's really stylistic. The music is great. I really liked it. I enjoyed it.
It's just so much. I mean, there's just so much coming at you.
I know.
That you miss like all of these shows. And then
the Silo. We just watched the Silo.
That's another Apple TV show that I'm like, wait, what? That's in its like multiple seasons? Well, they're killing it, but I always say they're killing it, but they don't even care. Like they're not average. Like you'll hear about Severance and maybe you'll hear somebody randomly say Silo or another show. But other than that, you'll just scroll through and you're like, what? This is out? These aren't joke shows. These are real shows?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah. Okay, so for this audience, if you do not listen to Little Miss Recap, what you do is you go subscribe, you rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. What do you have coming up? Remind us again once more of all the shows you're covering and which days you do it.
So Mondays are 90 Day, Tuesday, Last Resort, and then Saturdays, this is all in the public feed. Saturdays, we either have a documentary or we do that show called Reality Roundup, where we talk about everything big that happened this week, plus any shows that we're not covering, like Married at First Sight. Do you watch Married at First Sight?
It's a blind spot for me. I know people love it. I've never done maths. I never have done maths. Yeah.
Yeah. So just stuff like that. And then on our Patreon, we have our Sister Wives rewatch. I do a classic murder or cult doc every month. So we're doing Scientology, Going Clear. And Gypsy Rose, Life After Lockup's going to be coming back. I'm going to be front and center.
I loved the first season of that show. Yes. I was like, how is this so good right out of the gates?
So good.
And Ryan, her ex, is going to be a part of the show. She has a baby with Kin,
with the
her
sweat
original
towel.
prison love.
Oh, God.
Oh, it's like, howdy, y'all. Like, it is so
and
good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't wait to see where season 2 goes. And I pray for Gypsy Rose and her daughter. It's really interesting. So that's coming back when?
March
we just got to survive until March then. We just got to survive until March.
And Love is Blind. We'll be doing Love is Blind.
Love is Blind, February 14th. You said are you going to drop separate episodes for each episode or you're going to combine?
We do them by drops. So we'll do drop one. We'll all be in one episode.
Drop one. That's what I call what I do every morning. Drop one. And Amy, always fun, always a pleasure. This really energized me. So thank you so much. Ryan. Go support Little Miss Recap, you guys. And hopefully I'll talk to you very soon.
Yeah, thank you.